Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan Koval.
And I'm Sydney, and welcome to
OHG Talks,
where as part of our Get to Know OHG campaign, we're interviewing people across agencies and across OHG to help get to know them better. And today we have a very special guest. Kathleen is here with us, Kathleen King. So Kathleen, could you please introduce yourself, tell us about your role and what you do here at OHG?
Yes, hello. Thank you for having me, first of all.
Thank you for being here.
My role here at Omnicom Health Group is I lead learning and development. We are a team that sits at the center, known as a shared service, and our role is to hold up the university. It is formal learning for all of our employees. If you are an employee at any of our 30 plus companies globally, you are enrolled in the university, and through there you have access to personal and professional development, management and leadership workshops, as well as we offer coaching opportunities. I'm a leadership coach, an executive coach, and a team coach, working with intact teams to help them as they're newly forming, to hit the ground running, establish strong trust and accountability, or coming in with intact teams and helping them realign if they're finding themselves to be falling short of what they're capable of as a group of people together.
And so I must ask, how did you come upon this role?
Oh my, I came upon this role, and this, maybe I can answer broadly to how I came this career in general. Since I was little, I wanted to work with chimpanzees, and I mean, like, you know, when you look at what do you want to be when you grow up stuff from the time, I feel like that's the first question people start asking you as a young kid. Like, they don't even let you just be little. Yeah, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it was always a monkey trainer. I confess I didn't know the difference between monkeys and great apes. Yeah, so, but it was always chimps. I just thought that they were monkeys. And I ended up going to college at the Chimpanzee and Human Communication Institute in the state of Washington, CHCI, and worked with 5 chimps that were raised as if they were deaf humans. And it was a non-invasive behavioral research facility. A lot of non-verbal, so we use sign language to communicate. Sydney's my sign language buddy. Yeah. You formally have a minor in ASL. I have the credits for a minor in ASL, but my school didn't have that program. So can I still be in the club with you?
I'll let you be.
You'll let me,
sure.
Okay.
The deaf community. Feelings.
And through my 4 years there, because I started as a freshman working there and studying there, my final year there, I was about to say gifted, but I'll own it. I earned the role of helping to run the institute under the 2 directors. As an undergrad, I did that, but it was also a grad program. And undergrads were like sort of coming from all over the country to work there, but grads were truly coming from all over the world to be there. And I became fascinated with why people were leaving. There is no competitor to the Chimpanzee and Human Communication Institute. It wasn't like you could go down the road and work with the other 5 chimps that were raised using sign language to communicate. And I became really interested in human motivation, what engages humans, what helps us to give discretionary effort, max performance. How do you take somebody who just naturally has a fire lit about something and not have it go out? And as people were leaving, I didn't know what it was at the time, but I started doing stay interviews, I started doing exit interviews, I started doing engagement conversations, and really focusing on the subset of human behavior within this place. And when I graduated, they offered me a role to stay on, which I considered, but my mother was really sick, and from the state of New York, I was in Washington. It feels like the greatest distance ever, especially at that age, and I decided to come back home and be closer to family. And turns out zoos don't want you. If you've worked at CHCI, we were more about the animal experience than the human experience, which zoos are kind of flipped, and I didn't want to go study them in the wild in Africa. And it created space for me to really take a pause and think about my own motivation, my own engagement, and I became even more curious, like, what was this thing I was doing with humans at the end? And I found out about a field of study called IO psychology, industrial organizational psychology, and then continued on with my master's degree in that after a 5-year pause of being a full-time professional bartender in New York City, which I will say also gifted me with many skills I use today. I think everyone should at some point in their life work for tips, and it's true, your income is directly related to the experience you're able to create for other people, and I think that serves me really well in a client role now. That paired with being able to really read nonverbal behavior from working with the chimps, I draw on a lot of that with how I show up in front of a room. I sometimes joke and say my job now is standing in front of rooms of people I don't know, creating space, holding space, creating an experience where somebody can be self-aware and also have insights and move forward. Went to grad school and found my way into a learning and development role through that. Actually, a learning and development internship through that, which then turned into a role. I stayed at that company for a year and then moved on, where I was in another company for 3 years. And that was a learning and development and talent management role, which are two fields you really study within IO psychology. And it's not just about development of somebody in the role they're in, it's about really understanding what's their potential for the future. It's from a people side, but it's also from an organizational side. Where do you need your business to be in 5 years? Where are your people at now? How can we help you build bench strength to get there? What does leadership look like? Putting things together that are a little bit more strategic, like a high potential program. You have to understand who your high potential folks are. How do you define potential as an organization? So that's a strong foundation I was able to get in my previous organization. And then 11 years ago, I came here and I had to pick. And maybe this will happen to you at some point in your career, especially if you start getting the opportunity to have more broad focus earlier on. As you progress in your career, or as you chase different opportunities in your career, it might become more targeted to something. And when I joined here, I left talent management and I accepted and applied for, I applied for and accepted a learning and development role. And when I got here, I realized, oh, interesting, nobody's playing in the talent management space here. And I put together a by nomination program for high potentials. And it was fascinating. At the time, we were 9 agencies, and it was fascinating just to see the difference of who was in the room and what leaders viewed as being a high potential, and realizing there's really a strong opportunity to create a common language here around potential. And so I pitched in a smaller little pilot, you can say, doing a talent review within an agency, which then became for the whole network. And now here we are 10 years later. And my team formally does learning and development for the whole network, but talent management. And we're in the process of doing our talent review right now. And we will be building a high potential program out of that. And so all of that to say, a lot of my experience here, and you asked about 15 minutes ago, you asked me a question and I'm still going, but you asked why here? How did I arrive? Maybe something like, it was so long ago I barely remember.
Yeah, me too.
But what I find my experience is here is there's so much opportunity to identify white space. Oh wow, nobody's playing in this. This can add value. Maybe I can put a proposal together. Maybe I can start small with a pilot. If this adds value, maybe we can do something bigger. And my role, the role of our learning and development and talent management and coaching team, has really evolved from our own curiosities, our own interests, and paired with needs within the organization and ways we can add value. And it's truly delightful. And I always joke my role this year isn't the same as it was last year, and it won't be the same next year. And it's about staying in tune with where do leaders need their business to be? What does OHG need to be? What is our CEO's vision? and how can we help align what is our greatest asset here, which is our people, their skill sets, their mindsets to thrive in that space. I'm finished with question 1 if you have another one.
We covered a lot of things in there, but I'm just going to touch on something that you just said.
Yeah.
Because we are, part of the OHG campaign is Be the Case Study, and you mentioned that, our people here are our greatest assets. So can you speak to, our people and like us being the case study and what that looks like in your role?
Yeah, interesting. When I hear be the case study, what I hear is be willing to take a risk, be willing to try something out even if you can't show data from 6 other companies that are doing it or other teams that have succeeded. And we're comparative as a species. We tend to be more motivated to avoid a risk than get a reward, and so we tend to be cautious in general. Well, okay, show me this will work. And I think being the case study is about doing your research, coming in with informed opinions, well thought out strategies and plans, and then a appetite for iteration as well. I don't think being the case study is ever about getting it right the first time. I think it's about setting yourself up to be able to learn throughout the process, iterate, and be not just willing to receive feedback, but out there asking for it as well. And so being the case study here for us, and I'll speak maybe smaller within perhaps like designing a class, for example. It looks like saying, I think we have a need for something, and doing a lot of research, putting a class together, then getting some stakeholders in the room who it's meant to serve, getting their feedback, getting a cohort together, running it, getting their feedback not only on their experience, but what they learned through the workshop, and then following them through time. Why did we offer this to begin with? Was it to solve for a business issue? Was it for greater client retention, perhaps? And did it work? And learning from that. And so to me, being the case study means like, get out there, get curious, do something before you know it's going to work, with the appetite of iterating it and being willing to change it. And I mean, we change things so often on our team. I would say all are high in change agility, which is sometimes that can fall into like change for change sake. We try to catch ourselves if it gets to there. You need folks who slow you down and ask for data as well. It's a great pairing to have on a team. But that's what being the case study is to me.
So you said you've been here for 11 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Besides the fact that when you came, you had the opportunity to, do something new and start something new, and obviously that led you to where you are today. What else about OHG has kept you here for 11 years? I always hear about, people here for 15, 20 years, and, it must be a really special place. So what about it to you has kept you here for 11 years?
Yeah, okay. A number of things have kept me here for 11 years. First and foremost, the people. I said it's the greatest asset of the organization. I believe that. I think we have something really special here in terms of a culture. There's an OHG culture, but then there's also subcultures within each of our companies. I really enjoy that it's celebrated, that there's different agencies, different consultancies, different companies who are serving different people, solving different problems out in the world, and have different cultures within them. I love that just being in place as a shared service, it's sort of like I work at 30 different companies sometimes, but within a larger net. So I think I'm someone who likes variety. I like the challenge of working with different types of people. I like the challenge of working on different kinds of problems, and that's part of what keeps me here. Also is I've just found, I talked about white space before. I find that to be really true here. Is it's like I feel, what I always say is, if I get bored in this job, that's on me. It's a lack of me having, and my team, because we build off of each other and we feed off each other. That's on us. There's so much willingness to satiate our appetites, if you will, coming up with different challenges we want to solve for, different programs we want to build, and I feel like we get to recreate ourselves constantly. So that's what keeps me here.
Awesome.
I love that. Now we have to backtrack a little because chimpanzees. Because I feel like that's a lot of people don't end up in a space like that, and I guess I'm curious, like your love for animals, does it expand beyond chimpanzees? Is it just, I studied for chimpanzees because you said it started from you when you were so little, so I have to know.
I am an animal lover. Yes, this is a strange moment in time for me because I can't identify as a dog mom because I'm a dogless dog mom at the moment. But I've recently started fostering and realized that I wanted to get back in touch with sort of where I was when I was younger, which was more about animals as a community versus just my own animals. And so I've recently started fostering. That has opened me, I think, back up more into the animal world and the animal space. Something I might like to do upon retirement one day is open a chimpanzee sanctuary, but that is basically like being a mom to 40 chimps, and I'm not there yet, but I still have a passion for the space and deeply committed to animals, but it's more in the canine space at the moment.
That's fair. I grew up being like a very animal driven person. I wanted to be a vet, and then I said I can't, like the thought of like having to put a dog down made me, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do surgery. That was all also too much for me. But I do also have a love for animals. I'm an orca person. Like I really like whales and like dolphins and that whole
You like the smart ones.
Yeah, and like as a language surrounded person, I was like, they speak a language.
They totally
I'm
speak a
convinced that they
language.
speak a language, and people say no. And
Yes, they do.
People.
Who are these people?
Some people. Well, a lot of people that are
Me?
zoologists. I feel like some people are convinced that they don't have language because it's not the way that we have language.
Yeah.
But I disagree, and that's my hot take.
So that's something that was interesting with working with the chimps. I mean, it was a human study on non-humans, and the study was it started with can they learn spoken language because they vocalize, and it then iterated to well, they can't, they aren't quite built the same way, but they also gesture. Can we teach them our gestured language, and would they use that? And that's how this specific study started. And when the study concluded, there was a grad student, Dr. Roger Fouts, who was working on it, and he found out that his friends, his 4 friends, were going to be then moved back into biomedical research because the human study had concluded. And he took it upon himself to make a commitment to them for the rest of their lives that he would keep them out of biomedical. And so he started pitching to universities to have a sanctuary, which was the institute built, and open it up for students to learn. All of the research that we did went to creating a more humane space for captive chimpanzees. What can we learn about captive chimpanzees to create a better home and mental health for captive chimpanzees? One of the reasons I no longer work with captive chimpanzees is because it's very, very depressing, especially if they can communicate to you and they're imprisoned for no reason of their own. It was very common to be signed like hurry, hurry, out, out, keys, keys, shh. You'd be like, yeah, that's what I'd be signing. That's what I'd be signing too if I was behind bars. I think for me, a lot of my connection with animals is also kind of tied back to our human relationship with non-humans and trying to be better for them in some way.
Yes. And just to wrap up, any last thoughts you want to leave everyone with?
Yeah, I would say, why are you here? Why are you watching these videos? What are you curious about? And how can you be proactive with not just watching these, but engaging with people whose stories you find interesting or who you feel could maybe be partners or supporters to you as you start to chart your own path. We're waiting to hear from you, and we hope to see you in the halls one day.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you again for
Awesome.
being here.
And thank you everyone for tuning in to OHG Talks. And we will see you on the next episode. Bye everyone.